So, ladies and gentlemen, Gianluca Masi speaking, and I am very happy to introduce you to this new edition with our monthly starts, January starts. And first of all, I really want to wish the best wishes for the just started 2011, and this is coming from me and from all the staff of Virtual Telescope. So I really hope that you will have a memorable year, and that we will have plenty of chances, plenty of opportunities to enjoy the night sky together. And I must say that, as you know very well, of course, that something great is just waiting for us in few hours. So the sky started this year in a very nice and great way. But we will say something more later in on this event. But the very first thing I want to remember is that we are going to describe the northern stars, the northern sky, and what I will say will work quite well for all the mid-latitude places. I have in mind Europe and the United States, so I really believe that what we are going to see and what we are going to say are just are things that are useful to everybody joining this event. I'm sorry to say that we are still working on the southern part for this event, but I must say that we have some things in the queue, and I hope that sometime later this year, we will have finally the southern edition. We will see. We are working this very hard. It is now time to introduce the stars of the season, and I'm just going to share with you the very first star map. I prepared this star map keeping in mind the middle of the month, the 15th of January at 8:30 p.m. And this was computed for the Rome latitude, that is plus 42. So you will have some changes if you are northern than this or southern than this. But still, I believe that this star map will work basically for everybody, unless you are very close to the equator or very close to the pole. But let's have this image showing itself. Here it comes. I just want to introduce something more, by the way, just the directions, otherwise this map would be too hard to understand. And the stars are coming, and this is everything above the horizon at the date and time I mentioned. You can easily recognize here just the stars and constellation shapes. I managed to avoid to give you just stars, although that is the most natural situation, but I really believe that having these lines help you recognizing what is up right there, and we will also add names later on, because I also believe that it is useful to remember names for those constellations. But if the shape is enough for you to recognize what is what out there, you can see that the autumn constellations are now showing west. They are leaving the sky slowly and slowly, because the winter stars are pushing them, are rising from the east. And so you can see that the winged horse Pegasus is now really close, at least with his nose to the western horizon, while the body is still well placed at mid-altitude in the west direction, while you can recognize also Cassiopeia and Cepheus, while the Swan is partially visible, and especially its brightest stars, that is Deneb. But it is time to add the names of constellations here, so that you can have perhaps a better vision. So I'm just going to share another star map, but the very same, with just the names added. You have to do nothing to get this image, as the website will update automatically. So just wait, and in a few seconds you should see the new star map. Just checking that this is working. It is working, I see, and that is fine. So we are just seeing the whole sky, and I just repeat, Pegasus, the winged horse, is approaching west, followed by Andromeda, while the Queen Cassiopeia is still very high, not so far from the best position overhead, the zenith, while her husband is close, Cepheus the king. But as I mentioned, the winter stars are really rising and they are pushing away any other stars. And you can recognize that the bull is just well visible in the south direction, of course, high in the sky if you are at least in Italy, or even higher if you are northern in Italy. But of course, Taurus, the bull, is visible basically from all our northern hemisphere, as this is a zodiacal constellation, and this is very nice to and fine and easy to recognize. You can also see the Auriga with its bright star Capella, while of course the king here is Orion, the hunter, with its amazing shape, really remembering, I would say, a human shape, and also the twins with their heads, Castor and Pollux. But here I want to add something more as the names of the stars, just to give you also another idea, to some emphasis about the beauty of these names. So here is the new map with all those names marked. Of course, in the eastern part of the sky, you can easily see also the Ursa Major, which is now climbing the sky after sitting at the very bottom of the northern horizon. It is now starting to show better and better, and the best time will be next spring. In a few months, we will have the Big Dipper and the big, how do you call it, Big Bear, just basically overhead. But also the lion, Leo, is approaching, but of course, Leo will be better visible later in the night, not at your dinner time as in this map, but in a more comfortable time later this year. So this is a general view, but I don't want to forget also the big dog, that is the constellation hosting the brightest stars of the sky, Sirius, the hunting dog. I call it this way, but we have to remember that the hunting dogs are something different. But I like to think to this dog as the dog of an hunter, Orion, you know. And Sirius is so bright and shining so strong that it is a fantastic vision, no matter the telescope you use. I would say perhaps the best choice here is to look with your own eyes. It is time for us to look a bit in detail into the star map. As we did every time, I'm just going to enlarge the map itself, and I'm really going to show what is happening to this western sky. Just waiting for 1 second to have you displaying this. And you can see very well here the winged horse, and it is rotated, you see, as the shoulders are in the bottom part of the constellation. So it is a very funny horse, but this is so elegant, with the body marked by 4 mid brightness stars, and you can recognize this very well. Also, Andromeda is very well visible, and the Queen Cassiopeia on the right is still the most remarkable presence figure in this portion of the sky. Also because on the left side of this map, that is looking southwest, you can just see pale stars, pale constellations, like the fishes, like the big Cetus, the whale, as you call it. And these constellations are marked by, I would say, just pale stars, with some exceptions, of course. And the brightest point of light there is not a star, but it is a planet. I just want to add the name of those planets. And the new map is coming with the planet's name added, so that you will recognize that close to the head of one of the fishes there is the very bright Jupiter. Just give you a chance, if you want to save this map, You just have to click on the star map. The map will open in another window, and you will have a better chance to enjoy this one. And this is just a view on the autumn stars. They gave us their best weeks ago, and it is time for us to move south. And looking south, you will see the true season stars, the true seasonal sky. As I always say, when you look south, you are looking at something at its best position in the sky. When you look at the meridian, that is the apparent line joining both the poles, the celestial poles, and crossing for the zenith, the point you have directly overhead. When you look to the southern meridian, you are looking in the direction where the stars reach their best condition, their maximum altitude above the horizon. That is the best position for you to look at them. And this is true for any other objects, you know. So what is sitting there can be called the seasonal sky. And here you see by chance that in the middle of January you have the moon at the meridian at the time I have chosen for this. And that night there is a very close meeting between the moon and the Pleiades, one of the most famous open clusters. They will be about 3 degrees away. That is 6 times the apparent dimension of the moon. It is not so close. Sometimes the moon can even pass in front of the Pleiades, but this is still a memorable view, and I strongly suggest you to have a look. It is easy and a naked eye opportunity. There is the bull there, the Taurus, with the bright red eye Aldebaran. This fantastic name means that the star is the one who follows, as the star rises after the Pleiades. So Pleiades are followed by Aldebaran, this very nice orange star. This is a fantastic chance for you to discover that stars have a color. This for me is really, really something to keep in mind. Also, the charioteer is very high in the sky with Capella, one of the brightest stars you can see there. And I must say that winter is showing us some of the brightest stars ever. We will see Sirius, of course, the brightest of all, but still Capella is a very remarkable star, as Rigel and Betelgeuse, the feet and the shoulder of the Anther, the giant Anther, while the other shoulder is Bellatrix, where I derived the name for my observatory, as I was amazed by this star when I was a child, and Orion was the very first constellation I was able to recognize ages ago, so I have a special attraction and with the stars, of course. And those 2 stars in Orion are very bright. Betelgeuse is marked as the brightest star of this constellation, but it is a variable star, and sometimes it is fainter than Rigel. And you have also to keep in mind that the colors of those 2 stars are very different, as Betelgeuse is an orange-red star, while Rigel is white, bluish. And this is fantastic, as you can spot them in the very same place of the sky, and you can just guess the difference in color just having a simple look. This is a nice opportunity to see so contrasting colors in the very same field of view with your naked eye. What you can ask more than this? Also, Sirius is coming. Sirius is very well visible in the southeast horizon, and the whole big dog is now complete, and you can see the shape of the dog. This is a very nice, once again, a very nice constellation, and I'm amazed to see how the name here is reflected in the shape of the constellation as well. Also, the Eridanus constellation, the big celestial river, is just flowing on the right of Orion, and this is a very long constellation, and we are missing the other end, which is available for people living in the southern hemisphere, and the other end is marked by the famous Achernar star, a very nice and bright star as well. Also, the twins are very easy to recognize, and it is fantastic to see how the shape of this constellation is really giving us the impression of two brothers keeping each other by hand, with the heads being Castor and Pollux. As for Pollux, keep in mind when you will see that star that Pollux is a sun in a very nice sense, as it is hosting a planetary system around it, and to date it is the brightest star we can see, apparently there, hosting another planetary system. So it is nice to keep this in mind when looking at those nice stars in the Twins constellation. But let's move to the east part of the sky, and I'm going to send you the map, and you will see once again, but in another perspective, some of the same constellations like the Hunter, the Bull, and the Twins. But here you can better appreciate also Cancer, another zodiacal constellation. This is very pale, very faint, just sitting in the middle between the Twins and the Lion. The Lion just started showing itself, but we will have a better vision of it later in the night, or, as I said, in a better, more comfortable condition later this year at spring. But also you can see that there are other stars, very bright ones, like Procyon in Canis Minor, and that star is also another bright one. It is interesting to mention that both Sirius and Procyon, each being the brightest star of a dog, the major and the minor, are hosting another star, very small star, being a double star. But the funny thing, the interesting thing here is that the companion in both cases is not a normal star, but in both cases you have a white dwarf, so a very ancient and highly evolved star, and they are not easy to recognize because white dwarfs are very, very faint, and they are basically lost in the strong glare coming from those very luminous stars. But with some powerful telescopes, also using filters, just killing as much light as possible from the apparently brightest stars, you can even win trying to take an image of those nice double stars. Quite exotic, I would say. But also let's have a look to the north, as we are going to have just very quick looks at north, because those stars will have better conditions to be seen later in this season. They are basically late spring stars, but they are there, and why are you going to miss them? And here you can recognize the polar star in the Little Bear, and also the Dragoon, which is complete here, completely visible, and with the tail just pushing itself between the Big Bear and the Little Bear. And also the Cepheus King, the husband of Cassiopeia, is visible like an house sketched by a child, maybe. This is a very nice shape as well. And the Cygnus, the swan, is now setting with the tail. Deneb in Arab is still well visible. I just want to complete this looking overhead at the zenith, where in the middle of January at 8:30 p.m. you can see these two nice constellations, that is Perseus, the eastern autumn constellation, together with the Charioteer, with the Capella, that is the western winter constellation. So I would say that here you can see that the winter sky is now going to take the place of the autumn sky going west. So we have just completed the whole celestial panorama. I just want to mention for the record the Camelopardalis and the Lynx constellations. Both of them are marked by very faint stars, so you can easily miss them if you are not blessed enough and lucky enough to live away from light polluted sites. I want just to offer some suggestions. If you want to spot something interesting, I will always suggest you to look at the Andromeda galaxy, which is still well visible, and a star map with the galaxy market is coming. You can spot it naked eye without telescopes if you want. Once again, if you live far enough from any light, artificial light, but a binocular should help even if you live in a moderately polluted place. And another thing you can observe with a small telescope is the Gamma Andromeda star, and that is Almach. I'm going to send you in a few seconds a map showing it, and here it comes. It is a famous and fantastic double stars showing a wonderful contrast in colors. One star is orange while the other one is white bluish, and they are very close when you look at them through the telescope. So this is a true memorable vision. And of course, just for January 15, I want to underline this nice meeting between Pleiades and the moon. I'm just trying to, let me see if I can increase the number of stars to give you a better impression of about how rich is this part of the sky. So here it is with some detail, a star map showing for January 15 evening this meeting between Pleiades and the moon. If you start looking earlier than 8:30 p.m. that night, January 15, you will see the moon even a bit closer to Pleiades, the famous Seven Sisters, and the moon will be in not so easy. I mean, the moon will be approaching at that time. It's not the full moon, of course, because it will be not so bright, but bright enough to cancel many of the stars you are seeing in this map. But a binocular, to conclude, will give you a nice opportunity. Another thing you can absolutely observe, you must observe, I will say, if you don't mind, is in the Sword of Orion, the famous Orion Nebula. You can guess the presence of the nebula with naked eye, and here it comes, our star map. I just want to be sure that you can recognize it. Here it is, the star map is coming. You can guess the evidence of a nebula, of a diffuse little cloud there with your naked eye, and even the smallest of your binoculars will give you an idea, a nice idea about the richness of this place of the sky and about this nebula. Of course, you can even admire with your small telescope, if you have any, but even with a binocular, the colors of the brightest stars in the part of the sky. You can just see in sequence. I would suggest this one. Look, let me see if I can actually prepare a proposal for you. Please just wait for 1 second. I'm just trying to, okay, this map should work. Sending this to you, and try to look with the naked eye, or even with a small instrument, to the brightest stars you have here. That is Capella, Aldebaran, Betelgeuse, Rigel, Sirius, Procyon, Castor, and Pollux, and enjoy the subtle sometimes differences in colors, or those huge differences sometimes, as some of the stars are very different in colors, some of them are very similar. Capella, for example, is described as a yellow star, and Aldebaran as an orange star, Betelgeuse as a quite red star, and the Rigel has a white bluish star. So you can really have a nice experience checking yourself for the colors of these stars. I want to conclude this mentioning that tomorrow we will have a great solar partial eclipse. This will be visible in Europe, of course, also on some part of Asia. But I must say that Italy is perhaps in the best position for this, like a compromise between the elevation of the sun at the eclipse time and as for the percentage of the coverage. But the very strong issue here is the weather, because at least in Italy, at least in some part of Italy, from Rome to the south, the weather is really unpredictable. I would say it is expected cloudy, but our hopes are for a better situation. And this eclipse is expected to give the best at around the Mediterranean Sea at 9 a.m. in the morning, and at that time the sun will be relatively low above the horizon. So this is why we will miss the most spectacular effect, but still the coverage by the moon is quite large. While the moon is not going to cover the full disk of the sun, so the eclipse will not be total, the coverage will be quite huge. It is 70% here in Rome. It will be here in Rome tomorrow. So this is still a nice, very nice view. So I think that we described the most interesting things up there. Of course, there are many other things more than these I mentioned it. Of course, you have a full and a huge universe overhead every time, so it is up to you to push your imagination, to push your sight, and use your even small telescope to explore those fantastic and wonderful places. Traveling across space and time, and you will have a lot of fun. And if you can, try to share all this with your friends, and I will be happy to listen to you if you will have to just to share something which impressed you during your exploration. So I think that for tonight we finished with this event. I just want to remind you about the next two appointments coming. On January 11, we will have a show reserved to our supporters. So if you want to join, we just ask that time to support us in our many activities. This is why there is a formal small ticket to access those 11 of January events. While a great, I must say, a real great event is expected to be on January 25, when we will introduce for the very first time to the public our new amazing telescope, now part of the Virtual Telescope project. So on January 25 at 9 p.m. local time, 8 p.m. universal time, we plan to run a live observing session for free. You are welcome. You can find plenty of information about on our website, or you can look for us on Facebook, just looking for the Virtual Telescope Project group, and we will be happy to have you with us. So friends, I think that this is everything for tonight, and I want to say thank you to everybody, and I also want to remember the partners of the Virtual Telescope project, that is Unitron Italia Instruments, Software Bisq, Bader Planetarium, Santa Barbara Instruments Group, and Plainwave Instruments. I think that now we had all, and thank you very much for your attention, and have fun with the sky. See you soon, and keep in touch. Goodbye.